it's completely inadequate. And everything.
Sorry. Still going.
Can I please put that in? Did that go in?
It's fine, Jack.
Whether I would encourage TCD to remain in the USI? Yes, because as an organisation, it is we need to build on a national basis, and we need USI because if we disaffiliate, a lot of the stuff that's covered by the USI welfare costs we'll have to cover ourselves, which will possibly make the competition fee a lot greater for fraternity students.
Well, how do you marry that stance that you would stay with an USI with your membership of fee and your heavy criticism of Gary Redmond for letting the registration fee be raised by €750 within his tenure? Like, what would you do to change USI if it is so critically flawed in your opinion?
Well, I placed in my manifesto that I would allow more students to a greater proportion of the student body to vote for the USI sabbatical officers, because I feel that it would make them more accountable for their actions. Gary Redmond's tenure of the USI has seen an increase in €750 of the registration fee. And now, while this isn't as much as the USI stated, €3,000 last year and €5,000 this year, the fact of the matter is that he hasn't been fighting enough to keep the fees down.
It's more than a yes or no answer, that question. I think if you look at USI, the performance in the past 6 months in particular have been pretty lacklustre, and especially with fraternity students, because realistically what we want from USI is a lot different from what people down in Waterford, Cork, Galway, what they want. I think that's kind of there's an interesting tension in USI between kind of colleges outside of Dublin and then UCD and Trinity and the other Dublin colleges that are still affiliated within USI. So I mean, I think there really needs to be, whether Trinity not stay within USI, there needs to be a reform of how like interests are balanced, because anything that a Dublin college will vote for will be vetoed by the colleges from different parts of the country. And I think as well they provide like a really strong national voice, because you're much stronger with 250,000 students behind you rather than 16,000. But I think, as I said, like the performance of USI has been lacklustre. I think a lot of students in Trinity didn't actually support the march. I think a lot of students in Trinity found that the occupations were kind of embarrassing. And I don't think it really reflected well on USI.
My stance on it is this: a very, very popular, I suppose it's across all the races this year, is an element of reconnecting with students, and I think central to that is USI have dictated to us what our view is on fees, and yes, our view on fees essentially is diluted by their stance. But what I'd like to see happen is that students educate themselves on some of the aspects of USI, and there isn't much to it. I'd like to see a very good impartial and factual based campaign for information for students, so that they can make the decision themselves, so that we're not telling them what their stance is, because last time USI did that and the last time the Students' Union did that, it was on fees and no one liked it. But there's reason to affiliate, there's good reason to disaffiliate. I believe if we disaffiliate, USI has the chance of capitulating as a whole organisation. There's talks of disaffiliation across the board, across the country. So if we disaffiliate, it could see a gradual or a very immediate disintegration of USI. And we need a national organisation, so we'd have to set it up again anyway. But it could give USI the impetus, I suppose, to reorganise, to reprioritise, to get there'll be a leadership change. It will be anticipated this year, although the Constitution has allowed Mr. Redmond to go again. But there is a few things that we can't ignore, like the Higher Education Authority, the advisory body for Minister Quinn on education matters, will only recognise the USI as a legitimate negotiating body. Unfortunately, the USI this year seem to be more concerned with sitting on the floors of irrelevant government departments and in their cupboards than they do at a negotiating table. I think that's a massive priority that needs to be changed. Can I go?
Yeah, you can go.
Well, €6, I think, it would be like it would offer a substantial amount of money for the SU in the case of disaffiliation to affect a national campaign, and would be needed. And to echo what James said, you would work with the bodies like TCU and UL to hire a professional lobbyist.
Yeah.
Now, obviously not someone with relevant student lobbying experience, but I think we could be trusted. I think we would need it if we were to disaffiliate. Yes,
100%.
it's speculative to say that we will get it. It still has to go through a series of approvals, but I think if we are to affect ourselves well on a national scale without the USI as a representative body recognised by the higher education body, we would need it, and I think we could be trusted to spend it well.
Well, I would say that education is a right, not a privilege.
Yeah.
That the people with money should not be the only ones that get an education. I feel that the current crisis that with the financial crisis that Ireland is in shows that that the greed and the avarice of bankers and developers has put us in this mess in the first place. If they had been taxed under a progressive tax system, we would have been able to fund an education system and to put more students through college. And I feel that during a recession it's even more important to get more students out than less, because if you have less students coming through, you're going to attract less foreign investment, which is we're all talking about graduate employment. You're going to have less people coming, you're going to have less in jobs, so more people are going to have to emigrate.
The reality is we already have fees. I mean, we paid in Europe. We paid the second highest upfront rate for college, up behind England. I think as well, one thing any president has to be extremely careful of is what happened in the UK doesn't happen here, where you introduce fees, £3,000 one year, the next year it's £9,000. We can't let that happen.
Yeah.
And I think what we need is a comprehensive dialogue with our TDs and with our government to know what their plan is for the future for fees, because I mean it's an unfortunate truth that we are all paying whether we want to or not, and it's not just students, it's everyone. And I think one thing that
the difference between you and the difference between yourself and Rory and John is that John wants to get rid of fees altogether. So currently they're at
2,250.
Yeah.
So next year for our term, 2,250.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
you would like to get rid of them altogether. Would you, in your opinion, would you campaign for the elimination of the registration fee, the student contribution as it is now, altogether?
No, I think if we continue to ask these demands and demand of governments, we demanded of Rory Quinn to sign the pledge, and he signed it, and yet we saw a rise in the fees under his leadership as education minister, and no doubt it's something he didn't want to do himself, being involved in student politics as a young undergraduate, but I think we need to manage the situation. I think if we begin to overtax certain bands of earners, these are the people that are deciding to bring foreign investment to the country.
I think no matter what, NC President's personal view is you're not going to get no fees. I mean, we're paying them now. Like we're not next year. We're not going to pay less than €2,250. I mean, that's the end of the day. And I mean, it's just about making sure that doesn't go any further, or making sure that if there is any further increases, that we know that the month in advance, so we're not paying an extra €5,000 next year. One thing that I've really highlighted, and I think it's probably the most essential support, is grants, because I mean, grants support those who are the most vulnerable. And with recent cuts, mature students and people who live away from home have been affected worst. But I mean, if you want to protect the most vulnerable, you need to protect the grant, and that's probably a more important issue than fees, because by protecting the grant, by extension, you're helping not only minorities but those who need the help most. And then as well, just going back to the partial loan system, I remember we all looked at graduate tax and loan systems, but realistically, I don't think the IMF will give us a loan system, because we're already so much in debt that I don't think they're going to add 100 million into that, or whatever it will be for all the students that need loans to go onto them.
They have ruled out loans.
Yeah,
they've ruled out every possibility of somehow delaying the tax or delaying payment of undergraduate education. I think it needs to be looked in. The Irish government looked at the English system. The Student Loan Company in England is a government body. Employs 1,900 people. Is bred for inefficiency. It offers to pay either the entire tuition fees, and also for by further means testing, further supplements for living expenses. But I think a partial loan system now, I'm not advocating a complete loan system, and it's unrealistic to expect that the recent rise in the student contribution charge has only started excluding students, because it's been the previous rises that have happened that has excluded students. I agree with you in saying that we must manage the situation when it comes at us. So the student charge, a student loan will be part loan system, partly funded by the government, partly funded by private institutions, that would look to alleviate some of the stress for students who are struggling to fund their education.
If I was mandated, if the students, if I bring that to the students, if they said no, then I'd obviously not bring in TCDSU, but I might go down on a personal level.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't bring in students to do something that they didn't want to do.
You can't really go down as a personal level without be seeing as TCDSU president involving himself in those activities. You can't. I don't think you can divorce the job of TCDSU president from you joining a fee occupation on a personal level.
No, I think you can, because I mean there's.
But you know that if my successor would then cover that in University Times, and then the editor of Trinity News would say that John Tighe went down to an occupation of GD's office without a mandate.
Can I just say one thing? We were talking about Rory Quinn. We were talking about Rory Quinn earlier.
Yeah.
Rory Quinn, in his personal capacity, does not want fees.
Yeah.
He campaigned as a student, not wanting fees.
Yeah.
But in a professional capacity,
Yeah.
he has to. As a Labour TD and member of the government, he's been forced to bring in these measures. Now, is that the same?
It would be picked up by University Times, Trinity News, and anyone else who saw fit to cover occupations like that,
or even
as the TCDSU president, the national press even, as the TCDSU president at an occupation that was unsupported by his union. And, as we've said before, those occupations just are kind of derided by SU council and Trinity students generally. Not majority, but an awful lot of feedback we get anyway.
Okay, if I was to get, if I had to say attended a protest and I was to get emails and complaints that I shouldn't be there, then I would definitely consider not going on attending fee protests where there might be a contentious issue put me against the will of the people, the students at Trinity College.
Pay cuts.
Sorry.
Yeah, I said I'd take a 10% pay cut, or not a 10% pay cut, that I'd donate 10% of my salary, just in reflection of the times ago.
Donate to who?
The Student Hygiene Fund. Just in the times that we're in at the moment, and we're demanding greater efficiencies through college.
Do you not think it's a populist move? You could say that.
No, well, like you say, like Gary Redmond's move to take a potential pay rise is a very unpopular move.
Yeah.
And you could say yes, based on a kind of logical progression, that this would be a populist move. No, I think it's a very useful one, because if we're going to demand greater efficiencies through college, and you lead it by cutting lecturers' pay or redundancies across college, where we're trying to create a more streamlined approach to education, and indeed the board has recently set up the focus group on looking at streamlining administration. But I think it's a very useful way to lead that. What about
do you
yours?
think the salary that the SU president is currently earning and therefore also?
No, I think it's fair. I do think it's fair, and it's the lowest in the country of all the students' unions.
Can we say how much it is, or
Sorry?
can we say how much?
It's about 15,000.
Yeah,
It's more than that. Okay.
But look, this isn't a pay cut
Yeah.
now, and it's not going to be constitutional. This is a donation, and it is a donation to a fund which vital to a lot of students at the moment. And no, it would be misinterpreted if it was interpreted as a populist move.
So I said just between 10 and 15 because I wasn't actually quite sure how much that actually was.
Yeah, no, because
So-
the wage was, so
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah, okay. Basically, there's kind of 2 points that I'd like to kind of raise with that. Like, not just the idea of kind of this donation or this pay cut. I guess the most important issue that I find with kind of how much sabbats are paid is whether you're getting value for money from your sabbatical officers rather than how much they earn. Because it's below minimum wage, and I think that the best way to, like, I mean, if you look at especially welfare education, they probably work more than 40 hours a week with casework, and I mean, at different times, like, ENS officer has to be out every night, communications, like, long weekends, president, you're working a lot of hours as well. So I mean, you're probably working more than the 40-hour week. So I think that, I think what we need to do is ensure that these officers are doing their job right and the students are getting the value for money that they deserve, rather than they should take 10, 15, 20% pay cut or donation or whatever you want to call it.